Morning, can you hear me? The back, okay. So this panel session is titled, Is Cloud Ideal for Big Data and AI? This morning we have heard a lot about business innovation, how the new normal, there's going to be a lot of remote work. People are going to work, in hybrid mode. We saw how a university transformed itself into more remote learning in the over 7 days by moving to cloud. So in this session, we are going to not just focus on cloud, but specifically what's got, what's the relationship between cloud as well as big data and AI. Okay? And usually, in organizations, one of the challenges, how do you align your digital transformation strategy, your digital innovation strategy with cloud strategy, because it's become very important that these have to be aligned. So with me, I have two people from industry, Prem, as well as Mr. Ho. And then we have Raju, who is more into standards, setting standards. Also, he's involved in a lot of government initiatives, understanding how and what government can do in order to propel the use of cloud in the space of big data and AI. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask them to briefly introduce themselves and then talk a bit about what are they doing in terms of cloud within their specific organizations. So let me get started with Prem.
Yeah. Thanks, Venky. So my name is Prem. I'm the Area Vice President for Citrix Asia, run the business for Citrix here in Asia. In terms of what Citrix does, and we had a session, a keynote session just a while ago, but just to kind of simplify it, what we do is basically, amongst a lot of things, bring your workspace or workplace to where you are. That's essentially what we do. It could be at home, it could be at your office, it could be at a Starbucks, it could be at a food court, whatever. So we bring that workplace to you in a manner that it is very secure for you to be able to access that. And all of these workloads could be managed in an on-prem setting, in a cloud setting, in a hybrid cloud setting, or a combination of data centers and cloud environments. So that's what we predominantly offer to the marketplace. Thank you.
It's interesting, if you've heard him, he just said on-prem setting, and that's part of his name as well. Raju.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. Great to see all of you here, including virtually. I come wearing two hats, or three hats rather. The first hat is as Vice Chairman of the Cloud Chapter of SES. The second hat is as Chairman of the Cloud and Data Standards under the IT Standards Committee. And the third hat as the Chief Editor of the AI Body of Knowledge, which is an initiative by the Singapore Computer Society and the IMDA, and probably the world's first such collection of a body of knowledge encompassing all of the ethical issues related to the use and development and deployment of AI.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you everyone for having me here. I'm basically a solution engineer that works for Cloudera. So what does Cloudera do? We help our customers, we empower our customers to make use of their data so it becomes information that's really very actionable and gives them insight. To be more specific, today we are really talking about cloud, and what Cloudera offers is this journey, the big data journey to the machine learning that enables customers to have the freedom of choice. You can have cloud native services running on the public cloud, on the private cloud, as well as on-prem. And we are in the midst of this transformation with the customer. So it's really a great journey. And thank you again for having me here.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get started. The first question I want to address to all the panelists is, do we need cloud, to support big data and AI? And if not, what is the alternative? Is there an alternative at all in the first place? And if you could then add what are the merits of, having cloud to do big data and AI compared to if there are other solutions. So I'll let Prem start this.
Sure. Thanks, and a very relevant question. And my view is actually I would flip that around in a way. I think providers such as ourselves coming from the industry, be it big data, AI, or other providers like ourselves who consume a lot of big data, leverage a lot of artificial intelligence in what we do in terms of the platforms that we provide, it's important for us to keep pace and leverage the cloud. Make sure that we continue to be relevant by offering our services, our platforms from a cloud standpoint. I think Abhishek in his session had spoken about software sovereignty, and I really wanted to kind of talk about that. I don't think anything is completely going to move to the cloud. There are going to be a mix. It's going to be hybrid. There are going to be people who are going to have multiple cloud providers as well, servicing them. Whichever way we look at it, it is important for us within the industry to stay relevant, to be able to provide our offerings in the cloud. The benefits of the cloud is very obvious in the marketplace. I mean, the scalability, the agility, the flexibility that you get, the cost structures that comes with it is very, very critical. One of the key things that we are looking in the context of cloud, one is to offer services, but it's the security angle. When you look at even in the context of Singapore or in ASEAN, a lot of people are concerned about security, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's the piece which I think needs to be, the benefits are very obvious. It is about how does adoption of cloud happen. Security is a massive consideration, and COVID has accelerated a lot of that adoption. That's a quick view on from my side.
Raju?
So if you look at it from your point of view, not from the vendor's point of view, but from your point of view and my point of view as end users, there are three things that impact us, and those are ABC. A is AI, because AI is embedded into everything nowadays. B is big data, because all of your data is being circulated worldwide through social media, through places like LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Google, the whole jing bang. And C is cloud, because all of this exists on the cloud. Therefore, cloud is the de facto home for all our data, all our identity, and all the analytics that happens. And as Prem rightly said, the number one issue on the cloud is security. How secure is your data? How secure are you when you go and do your banking on the cloud? How secure are you when you share your personal information on Facebook, on Google, on YouTube, on LinkedIn? Who is accessing the data and for what? These are questions that impact all of us. That's why it's so relevant that we as consumers have to be very careful when we give our rights. As Pradhan said, data sovereignty is not about the sovereignty of data of a nation. It's the sovereignty of the data of each one of us, because we are the data points that are used to market, to analyze, and to attack. I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Right. Very relevant question you raised, right? Is the cloud needed for big data and AI? I would say it's definitely something you should use today, but there's also a recognition from Cloudera. We have been in the big data space for 12 to 15 years, roughly, and there are a large number of existing users of big data technology and machine learning that have not yet moved to the cloud. The cloud offers them something that they did not have last time. What we used to do is you buy a set of servers, you would install them, you would configure them, and you would run your big data analytics on that platform, right? today, the cloud offers you almost unlimited elasticity, almost unlimited storage. So those are the two significant factors, I think, that you should always be thinking about, taking advantage of the cloud, as well as understanding the limitations or some of the concerns that you have. And that is why in Cloudera, we believe in the freedom of choice. We're an open source company. So use the public cloud or the private cloud or an existing on-premise to enable your big data and machine learning.
Thank you. It's interesting because when, last year we had circuit breaker around sometime this period, right? At SMU, we had to move all our courses online. And then I had a chat with the CIO and I said, is it possible, because we do use e-learn platform. And the question we were worried is suddenly we have 8,000 students using it. And exactly his answer was, everything is on the cloud, so we can scale on demand. So that's a very important aspect. The other interesting thing I've also observed from what you mentioned is the ability to leverage these services is where, you can build very complex solutions. And what I have observed is when students are doing projects, so they are using sensor data, and then they are using some image recognition APIs, okay? And then putting it all, these different aspects together and building a solution. And they are not experts in AI per se or image recognition algorithm, but through cloud, they just need to call an API. And that's the value that the cloud service providers bring to. So you can use that service and then you can build a solution. And that's something as an SME or even as a large organization, the ability to tap on to these algorithms which help with producing interesting, intelligent insights. You could do that without having to write your own code. And that's something that we need to keep in mind. So let me continue with this question. When we talk about, especially in the new normal, where employees will be working from home, what support does cloud provide for enabling organizations to leverage big data and AI? So some of the services are usually data aggregation and cleansing, ability to store multiple formats, cloud machine learning platforms, AI services, some of what I mentioned. So can we have Mr. Ho start first on this?
Now that you bring that question, it's really interesting because a lot of the big data customers, they talk about ending up using machine learning, artificial intelligence. That is actually at the end of the pipeline. The data lifecycle begins with data collection. You have to collect data. You have to collect data sometimes in real time. After you've collected data, you might have to do some processing, sometimes in real time or sometimes at batch daily basis. You want to be able to serve the data out and scale in, scale out. So might be, for example, if you're a telco and you want to check, your customer uses a mobile app, they want to check how much prepaid credits they have, they've done a top up, immediately want to check again. And that's a scalable architecture. If you think about it, the cloud offers you this opportunity to put all of these services online. Of course, there's a security constraint. Once you put all of this online, you can make use of the tooling, web-based tooling very much, in fact, to be able to do this entire data lifecycle within your web browser. So you could ingest data in your web browser, you could process data in web browser, you can create dashboards on your web browser, and for the more advanced users, you could create machine learning algorithms calling APIs, or you could download a algorithm, TensorFlow, for example, and create your own end-to-end application and expose that all on the cloud without having to pay for your own infrastructure.
Thank you. Mr. Prem, can you focus more on the remote working and how these services help?
Sure. Thanks, Venky. And you know, as we were going through this discussion, I was just thinking that when you talk of cloud, when you talk of security, when you talk of apps, there's so many different layers and perspectives to these terms. And any of this, you talk of it in the context of security or even cloud, there are 10 different ways, each of them relevant, independent in a way that you bring to the table. So I'll give you our experience really in the context of that question. COVID, since COVID, there's a lot of impacts and a lot of things that happened. But from a technology perspective and from a business perspective, there were two big things that happened since COVID. Number one was a lot of employees working from home, having to work from home, which meant accessing massive amounts of data and information, not sitting in their regular places, but sitting elsewhere. Yeah, so that was one big thing. The second big thing that happened was businesses started engaging with their customers more digitally, right? Through more digital channels. So there was massive proliferation of data and content in the digital space. In fact, McKinsey did a study, and it was a great report that I was going through, and they were talking about how through COVID, and Asia leads the way, by the way, it was a global report, where they basically came up with what is the probability of engaging with your customers digitally? And the chances are probability is 3 times more. It went threefold during COVID, and likely that this will sustain post-COVID. So long story short of it is that there's massive amounts of data. And from our perspective, we're trying to make this engagement easier for people. From a corporate perspective who's exposing this information, we're trying to make that more secure. And the third aspect of it is how do we then leverage artificial intelligence, etc., to make some sense of this information and create actionable insights. So to me, what we've seen in the industry is that as our customers are saying, look, I need to bring that flexibility. It's a classic trade-off between a CIO and a chief information security officer. One person saying, I want to bring in flexibility, the other saying that I want it to be, keep secure. And that's where we fit right in the middle, because information is hitting organizations and we are questioning, is this secure? Can I trust you? So we take a zero trust approach towards this whole thing. And we say, can we trust you, parse this information through this layer? So now, when you look at all of this, from a cloud standpoint now, what this really means is the proliferation of cloud, right? I mean, has also increased, and COVID has been a massive, it's expedited the adoption of the cloud. So it's really, really important for providers like ourselves to ensure that as more and more applications, services are moving to the cloud, this security element remains. That is going to consistently drive adoption to the cloud. So that's my view.
Thank you. Raju, one of the challenges is, okay, you can provide all these different services, but from an end user perspective, there is also need for ensuring there are standards so that there is opportunity for interoperability. And earlier, one of the speakers was talking about digital sovereignty, and that can happen only if standards are adhered. So your thoughts on that?
Yes, so standards are important, and I'm happy to say Singapore has been the leader in setting standards or ensuring that companies comply to standards which are not available elsewhere in the region or maybe in the world. There are 2 standards that Singapore has adopted. One is called MTCS, Multi-Tier Cloud Security, where audits are made by external auditors. Some of them are international external auditors who will come and audit that you are as secure as you state you are. And if you are not, there are severe penalties and you can be pulled off tenders from the government as well. There is another standard, which is Cloud Outage Incident Management Standards, COIR, Cloud Outage Incident Regulation Standards, which are not yet set in stone, but we are going to do that over a period, which means as a cloud service provider, you cannot have an outage because SMEs depend 100% on your cloud. It's as vital as electricity, water, and gas coming to your house. Without electricity, your businesses can't run. Right now, without cloud, your business can't run. because all your workloads are on cloud. All your e-commerce runs on cloud. All your suppliers, your customers are on cloud. Therefore, as a cloud service provider, you have to ensure that your cloud never fails. That is one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is you as an SME or as a large company. You have an equal responsibility to your customer to ensure that you have BCDR, maybe active DR on the same cloud or on multiple clouds. And that the active DR takes over with an RTO of less than 10 minutes. Because if it is more than 10 minutes, you could lose a lot of ground. More than money, you could lose reputation. And as a study came out, Harvard Business Review last year, the cost of reputational damage is 7 times more than the cost of any physical or revenue damage that you may ensure. I mean, that will happen, right? So this is very important that you as a customer or you as an SME take equal responsibility as their responsibility taken by the cloud service provider. So those are the kind of standards Singapore is setting, and I'm glad that I am helping to be part of that standard setting process.
Thank you, Raju. At this moment, I would like to invite any questions from the floor. There, can we pass a mic?
Hi, sorry. Suan here from the assignments. if you're scaling it to Myanmar, any good advice? Yeah, thank you. Where the situation right now is. Yeah, just curious. Thank you.
So, are you referring to the relevance of cloud in the current situation in Myanmar? In the sense, if if business, I guess the question relates to if businesses are leveraging cloud, and if there is some situation that's happening in a particular country. So what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that the military should quickly free Aung San Suu Kyi and bring about normalcy in the situation, because unless there is political stability, there will not be economic stability. So leave alone cloud, the chance of doing business in Myanmar is as questionable as anything else.
Maybe I want to add a different context to that, right? We understand the situation in Myanmar, and there may be some organizations that could set up their own private cloud, right? I think alluding to having multiple clouds and having a backup plan or repatriation plan. So you could set up a private cloud within Myanmar itself and leverage the public cloud, AWS, Google, Azure, as your primary production. And then when there is an outage, or hopefully there wouldn't be an outage, but if there is an outage, you have a fallback plan, right? This exact same application with the exact same data, with the exact same security is actually in country, and you can have the same elasticity, the storage that you want. I think that's another perspective that you have to think about.
Thank you.
No, I just, I was a little, I wanted to stay away from the politics of that whole situation and so on. But well said and rightly said. I think it's down to the same thing that Wing spoke about, which is to have a repatriation plan and a backup plan so that there's no disruption really to the cloud services, etc. So plug out and plug in really, which is what many of us from the industry provide that ability to the industry. So that's pretty much what it would be. And I think it's been referenced in the past keynote addresses as well, that geopolitical pressures. And when that point was being made, I was thinking of Myanmar actually at that point in time, actually when that point of geopolitical pressures. So it is, yeah, very relevant.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. We have the question.
Hi there. We have number portability when it comes to mobile numbers. I was just wondering, what are your opinions on whether or not we can ever impose, cloud portability, where I get the assurance that I can port my application and data from one public cloud to another. And the second question is that from a technical point of view, does this mean that I would have to go to the lowest common denominator and therefore not get the benefit of some of the cloud provider specific functionality? Your comments?
Okay.
All right, very good question, right? I'm not certain, I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot say that we will never have a open standard across all cloud providers. That may happen, but it looks unlikely that a object storage from one cloud provider will be exactly the same object storage on another cloud provider, or Kubernetes that comes from cloud provider 1 will be the same Kubernetes in cloud provider 2. And native services, maybe things like language translation, all of those are, I think, intellectual property that differentiates cloud providers. So in one sense, you are correct. If you want to have the ability to move between cloud providers, you should find a common platform. And I believe that common platform is the ability to store, whether that storage is cloud provider 1, cloud provider 2, you want an abstraction layer on top of that, as well as having maybe Kubernetes as your de facto application processing platform. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to add? Yeah, so, I reflect back to the days when, ERPs, when people used to buy ERP, and then if you're going to customize it, right, because you're going to customize it for your specific organization, the challenge is always, once you're customized, very difficult to then, port it to some other ERP provider, or even from one version to a new version of the software. I don't think that's going to disappear. And I think we got to be very clear about it and transparent, because as you rightly said, each cloud service provider want to differentiate themselves by providing certain additional features. And if you decide to leverage that, then there's always going to be that challenge of porting it to another cloud provider. Of course, from a standards perspective, I guess there's a lot more work needs to be done in this space, right?
From a standards perspective, this is not really a Singapore solution. This is a situation that has to be taken at probably ISO level, where different cloud service providers have to come together and evolve basically APIs that allow portability between clouds. But again, coming back to the situation from the end user point of view, you as an SME or as a large enterprise have to decide what are your most critical or mission critical apps which need to run 24/7. And therefore, should you take that extra effort to have separate APIs for separate clouds? Because in case one of the clouds fail, you can fail over immediately to another cloud only for mission critical apps. The rest are all archived storage, which can wait, but mission critical apps must run, and therefore you cannot have any outage on the cloud, where portability is something that falls into your bucket and not into the cloud service provider's bucket. Because as of now, there is no seamless portability between cloud service providers.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? There's one more question.
Hi, my name is George. I'm from Cloudera. My question is towards, I've been hearing a lot about business continuity and how cloud can enable you to continue your business without any friction. Now, my question is around building it from the ground up, enablement and education. So I can see on the panel, we have a couple of them who are linked with universities in Singapore. And I want to hear from you on in what ways can technology vendors like Citrix and Cloudera can enable universities to build big data and machine learning talent from Singapore locally by helping build machine learning platforms and all those things. Because end of the day, without the talent pool within Singapore, I think everything that we do must be outsourced of some sort. So what can vendors do to address that from a technological perspective and enablement perspective? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I'll take that question. It's very important from a university perspective as well, because for us, what we are looking for is the students to be able to be employed once they graduate. So we are always seeking for opportunities to work with industry partners. For example, earlier I did mention that my students working with a particular company, with their design office. And what we are trying to do is to get students to use their cloud platform and build innovative solutions. And the whole course is on the company. We divide the students into 5 teams, and the company provides mentors for each of those teams. And the students are actually working on projects which the company will then use as proof of concept. And they were trying to leverage the cloud as well as big data and AI and build some innovative solutions. So we have an entire set of courses at SMU, which we call as SMU-X or SMU Experiential Learning Courses. And these courses, what we do is the students are working with industry partners like you on projects. And you could bring on your own clients, and then the students are developing proof of concepts for your clients using your technology. So that way we ensure the students have the right skills and both the theoretical, the conceptual skills, but more importantly, the hands-on technical skills are also needed. So this is something that we have been doing at SMU, and we look forward to more partnerships with vendor companies. So that's something we have been consciously doing. The other thing we are also doing is to work with technology companies and co-develop courses where people from the industry come in and deliver part of the program. So with Google, we do have a Google Analytics program where people from Google work with our professors, and we have got them to come in, have a few sessions with the students. And also we are looking at work study elective, where the students will study a few courses, then they are going to the industry to work for 6 months as interns. And the idea is then they can finally be absorbed by that particular company once they graduate. So there are multiple opportunities for working with industry. I don't know, Raju, you want to add something to this?
Oh, you've said everything.
Okay, thank you.
But I would like to add.
Yes, yes.
I just wanted to cover off that question, almost trying to represent the person who's asked the question in a way, which is we, from an industry standpoint, as a technology, this is a very, very important part for us as well. And I just wanted to use this opportunity to share that. And we've already had multiple initiatives, and we'll talk about that separately, but we've had multiple initiatives from a few perspectives. But the top 3 perspectives is this. One is in terms of what we spoke about, what we did with Sydney University. So this is how do we empower the education sector to be able to deliver what they do. Second aspect of it, and we've got programs and we're working on that, is to how do we partner, which is where it covers a lot of what you're speaking about. How do we enable? But the third piece of it, and this is what is a key message, is a strong recommendation really, is that the concept of time it takes to enable these kids and students needs to also change. I'll give an example, right? In ASEAN, right, before COVID, we would talk about plans around moving to the cloud, moving into workspaces, remote, etc. The general response would have been over the next 2 years, 3 years. That was the plan. 400, 500 days. Studies are there where cloud adoption was said that they would do it in 500 days or so. What happened when COVID hit all of us was policy plans changed overnight, and within a month, people were up and running. So my view from an industry perspective is that the education sector, and this is not about one university or the other, but as a sector, needs to take a more expedited approach towards the way they can enable their students with these kind of technologies and quickly bring them up to speed, and the speed at which that happens. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we've seen that in the industry. We've seen that in very conservative markets where they said that, and we've enabled people in the industry very quickly to be able to deal with the situation during COVID. So that is an illustration of what is possible.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Ho, you want to add?
I think most of it has been covered. I mean, in Cloudera has always collaborated with educational institutions. We provide our material effectively free for the lecturers to deliver to the students. And this will continue. I think the beauty of what we do is, I would say the younger people today are really, really fortunate. I came from a computer science background, right? Had no idea what's machine learning and artificial intelligence. I'll be honest, right? And then today, the kids that come out from university, they can code you an ML model within half an hour, and then they can explain it. So I feel that the acceleration is there. Is just making it more widespread, and continued collaboration between industry and the universities will make that happen.
Okay. Thank you. We have 1 more minute. I don't know if there is one more question. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll take a quick jab at that. First thing that I wanted to mention is that, and I'm a little conservative, and this technology is notorious or famous for jargons, and we need to take a step back and believe that things happen in a certain fashion. So 5 years we spoke about artificial AI and robotics and so on and so forth. We're still nowhere reached the capacity of this. It is still a hot topic. It is still organizations adapting to this and adopting these kind of technologies. There's a long way to go where software, robots, etc., would replace human tasks. Right now, the focus from a robotics perspective is more on repeatable manual tasks. AI is definitely getting there. The penetration is increasing, but there's a long way to go. We have, and with the reference that was made, and we'll figure out a way where this can be shared, is we are actively participating with the industry to understand what work would be like in 2035. And one of the predictions of how work would be is that there would be a significantly higher, I do not want to quote a number because I'm not readily able to recall it, but we would like to figure out a way to share this information to some of the members, is that there is a significant increase in terms of AI and RPA, as we call robotics, replacing some of the human tasks. And humans will be then repurposed to do higher level of activities.
Thank you.
So I have 3 predictions for you. ABC. A is for augmented intelligence, which means humans working together with robots on AI, which will become more prevalent. Right now, it's AI or humans. The future would be augmented intelligence. B is Bitcoin, probably, because right now we have seen a huge amount of take-up of Bitcoin, which is only held by 1% of 0.001% of the rich. But with companies and countries like, say, DBS Bank, for instance, or China, the United States, Estonia, Japan coming into the Bitcoin business, it will become a little more regulated with the central banks coming in. And that, as you know, Bitcoin is virtual currency where all of it resides on the cloud. And C, I think, is cybersecurity still. It will become even more prevalent with AI-led attacks, bots attacking other bots, machines attacking other machines. So it's a scary future. And unless we are going to do something about it right now, we are all in danger. That's my last word.
Okay, very quickly, Mr. Ho. I think
Yeah, thanks for that. He reminded me of Terminator there for a while. I take a more, I don't know, more from a consumer perspective. I think connected cars might become a reality in a bit of a, you're not going to be able to drive from Singapore to Malaysia on some muddy road, right? But anything that has a very good connectivity should be done. I think connected cars, 5 to 10 years should be there. I believe that there will be a more prevalence of virtual assistants, like talking to your, right now my kids talk to Google, right? And maybe talking to your phone that reminds you of your calendar, what you want to eat, what are the meetings that you should go through, and maybe for healthcare purposes, you're not getting enough exercise, right? Your blood pressure is too high, you haven't had a last checkup. All that things that seem to be a dream might be a reality in 5 years from now. So your watch will tell you it's time to wake up, time to exercise. And all of that, of course, there are privacy concerns, cybersecurity concerns, but if we do it well, I think that dream can be a reality. That's my personal viewpoint.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to thank the panel members for their contribution as well as people from the floor. Thank you.